On the Neil Wilkins podcast today, we are going to find out how you can create 30 days of marketing content in 90 minutes with a brand new system from Aaron Witnish, who is the co-founder of contentonly.au. This is a company that specializes in an extraction system that we are going to delve into, I'm hoping, that creates this dream of 30 days of content in 90 minutes a month. Now, what is not to like about that? Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Neil. It's great to be here. I'm excited to chat to you.
I want to get into that system because this almost sounds too good to be true. And I know from a little brief conversation before, I mean, you are all about the content. You are all about serving clients, across the world with this incredible system. But I want to kind of go back to, before we get into how you actually do that, I want to go back to kind of why content, why marketing, why communications, why Aaron is in this world. Give us a little bit of a backstory.
I think when you jump on a train or you walk down the street, you just need to look around and observe humans. And you'll notice a trend, whether it's good or a bad thing. And that'll be this. They'll be looking down at the palm of their hand, glued to a handheld device. And that's where the attention of humans goes in today's age. And the future generations, the ones coming through, are probably only going to have that amplified. So if you're not creating content, you're actually not going to meet the consumers in the marketplace with where their attention is. So it's essential for creators, businesses to build a presence and start creating a relationship with people where their attention is. And that's really why content is so important for anyone that has a commercial goal with what they're doing.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember back in the day when it was all about advertising and, I mean, the whole kind of idea that as a brand, as a small, medium, large business, the fact that you have your own TV channel, you have your own radio station, you have your own publishing house, which, okay, I'm building those kind of elements up into being something probably quite large and significant, but that is actually what we now have, isn't it? As business owners, as marketers, we have a radio station, potentially. It's called a podcast. We have a TV station. It's called a YouTube channel, etc., etc. The power has really come back to us again, hasn't it?
Yeah, and there's no barrier to entry. As long as you've got access to a device, it can be someone else's, and a connection, you can create content without having to have a budget, when historically you might have needed that advertising money to be on radio, to be on television. So there's no excuses for not creating content, because all the platforms now allow you to edit with their own inbuilt tools. They allow you to schedule content. So there's not one business that can make the argument that they haven't got the resources to do it, because anyone can create content now.
So there's a lot of noise, isn't there, out there, because of that very fact that everyone can now create content. It's almost like we've sort of shot ourselves in the foot, really, with this thing, because everybody can do it, most people are trying to do it. So now there's this huge, great noise. You look at your own timeline on any social network now, and it's chaos. I mean, if you use sort of Twitter or X's now, or LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, others are available. You kind of look at that content and you think, if I blink, literally, physically blink, there's another 30 posts. We've got to a point now where, is it too much?
It's interesting because the algorithms are working out what to put at any point in time in front of you. And the average human attention span, last time I Googled it, could have changed by now, is 8.25 seconds. So with people having that scrolling pattern, it's really important that that first few seconds of content, the headline, the opening sentence in a video, stop someone from scrolling, or else they're going to move on to the next thing that gets their attention. So you're vying with more and more content, and AI's again helping people produce much more content than has ever been produced in history. So you've got this responsibility to do great content, or else you're just going to get lost in the sea of everyone else pushing out the same vanilla duplicates. And the ones that are actually making the effort to build an audience, do the right content, add value are the ones that are going to get the attention at the end of the day, and that's who the algorithm are going to give preference to. So it's very interesting to watch it all unfold.
It is, isn't it? And I love that word that you use there, responsibility, because I think I'm hoping, I don't just think, I'm hoping that what's going to play out here is that responsible businesses, responsible communicators, responsible brands are going to be the winners here, because they're going to be the ones who are going to say, guys, we just need to slow down a little bit here, and we need to look at quality, not just quantity. Because it feels to me, and I'm really interested in your take on this, Aaron, because you're very much kind of, embroiled and sort of, very, very active in this content space. Do you sort of, from your perspective, do you think we've almost lost the point of what we might have termed back in the day social media? It's not really social so much now, is it? It's very much, this is almost like a replacement for advertising. So it's kind of like, I've got content, I've got messages that I want to share. So I want to talk about my brands. I want to talk about this product launch. I want to get really noisy in this space to this particular audience. So I'm just going to throw loads of content in there. That doesn't feel very responsible. That feels a little bit self-centered, but a little bit selfish, and not really kind of in playing with this word social. It's not social media now. It's kind of like a broadcasting platform, isn't it? I don't know. That's kind of how it's feeling to me. What do you think?
Well, marketers love to get their hands on everything and ruin it as soon as platforms allow advertising, and they do need to do that because that's how they fund themselves. The marketers come in and try every which way to get clients and grow their business. So I think with more and more content being available to people coming through, more and more people are going, oh, I can start a business or I can push something. So that's creating a sea of the gig economy and people that are choosing to be freelancers and launching something. And then everyone does want to put forward their ideas and what they're doing. And the reality is, when people start down that path, if they don't have much experience, they usually don't do a great job of that. And we're getting a sea of, I guess, promotion and not much socialization going on. Like when we first joined the platforms, I remember it might have been 06 or 08. I can't even remember the year when I first joined on Facebook. It was purely social for me. It was, what are my friends doing? What are we doing on Saturday night? Liking their photos. And slowly but surely now it's become every third post in my feed is an advertisement. I see less and less of what my friends and family are doing, and I engage less and less with friends and family. So you're right, it's completely 180'd from how I first used it and how most of my friends and family first used it.
So it feels like it's almost morphed into this thing through no individual fault, because it feels like the algorithms have changed. It feels like our behaviors have changed. It feels like then the marketers have also, as you say, they've jumped in because it's like, whoa, this is free. I can just do this. So it kind of feels like we've all been part then of this kind of creation of something really quite different. And it's quite a hard space, isn't it? This cut through. I've noticed, actually, I don't spend a huge amount of time now on Facebook. When I do go on there and look at my timeline, it's brands, it's music kind of channels that I follow. It's the rugby. It's things like that. I'm not like you. I'm not seeing very much of my friends' stuff, but I'm guessing that the algorithms will, if I particularly go and search out a friend, but actively like something that they're kind of posting, then they'll then start to, because of the algorithms, get back on my radar. So I'm assuming it's because I've been socializing less, I've been publishing less, that actually I've kind of skewed it, kind of unnaturally, possibly. Do you still think there is a part to play for social then within it?
Oh, definitely. I guess it comes down to the end user. I'm sure there are people that don't have a commercial hat and do get some of their best socialization and connection out of the platform. I think we're all ingrained in the marketing world, so we probably have very different reasons for going on there. I know personally, which sounds almost hypocritical, I say if I wasn't in the business that I'm in, I probably wouldn't even utilize social media. So my whole business is built around these platforms, and yet I wouldn't use them if I didn't have a business application for them. So it is people like me that are largely responsible for this. But you will find that if you do start interacting and engaging with people more that are in your friends, in your networks, that's what the algorithm will start showing to you, because they want to put the content in front of you that retains your attention on the platform, so they can show you more ads and get more revenue for their platform and not send you off somewhere else. So it's a very smart algorithm, and it knows what it's doing. So you can even test it out, start engaging with a family member or a colleague, a friend, and just notice what starts getting pushed into your feed versus what you were seeing today and yesterday. It is interesting to see how it all works.
And I guess the flip side of that, something again that I'm noticing really on YouTube, and we will come on to talk about the platform very, very soon, but I just want to get this kind of the little nuances and the context of kind of the world in which you've created your system. But the YouTube sort of situation for me right now is that I'm almost kind of fearful to click on a particular short or long form video that is slightly out of sync, even though I might be curious about what's included in it. I'm conscious I don't really want to click that link and actually watch it, because I know then I'm going to get like 20 or 30 recommended videos coming through off the basis of that one thing, which was just something I was just curious about. It's not going to be mainstream for me ever. Now that's an interesting one, where the algorithm then is kind of making assumptions that actually you are now freshly interested in this new topic, so let's overload you, Neil, with this content. And for me, that doesn't work. It's like, yeah, but if you look back on balance, 98% of the other stuff I'm watching is pretty consistent. So please don't skew the kind of the stuff you're recommending for me from those one little views. I think it is about balance. The algorithms are very clever, but sometimes they don't necessarily work in our favor. Do you think it is more worked in the favor from an advertising perspective?
Yeah, well, it wants you to have the choice of the different. So it's going to favor the style of content that you preference as well. So if you preference long form, say podcasting and tuning into that, you're going to see a lot more of that as recommended to you versus someone that really likes their shorts and likes to scroll through those. So if you look at your habits and patterns, they're going to put more of that in front of you. And I understand what you're saying too, because I've got a almost 7-year-old son who jumps on my channel and goes watches Peppa Pig, and I get recommended some of those videos. But you have to give it that credit, because it is very intuitive, and it will follow your patterns, and it will try to retain your attention. And once you do start to go down a certain path or a rabbit hole, you'll notice that gets littered in. Might not be everything that you see, but they'll start pushing it into your recommendations more consistently to see if you go back there. And then if you keep looping back to it, that's when they'll start to put it more front and center. But if you only go there once or twice, it might put it in front of you a handful of times, then realize you're not going back there. And then you'll probably see it move away from your recommendation. So it is amazing how they've got this pattern recognition technology, and that's how they put the content that you're clicking on in front of you. It's crazy.
So if we have to play that game, then, so we've got to be a really good business or marketer or brand kind of content creator, mindful of the algorithm, so we kind of know some of the basics now as to what to really be focusing on. And then at the same time, we've got to remember that we've probably got some stuff to promote and some stuff to be getting either leads and inquiries or selling actual product if we've got an e-commerce site. At the same time as probably building our brand credentials for the longer term, so that we're not just selling for today, but we're actually positioning ourselves in that engagement that you talked about earlier. So it's got complicated, isn't it? There's those three things kind of working in unison, and now you've actually told us we've got to be responsible as well. So we've got to be doing the right kind of content. So that's fourth thing. It's getting ever more challenging, I think, isn't it, for content creators? So is this where your system kind of comes in here? Because it's feeling like less is definitely more, as long as the less is highest quality. So it feels like there's an opportunity here within a system that claims 30 days of content within 90 minutes, that if we're really kind of slowing this down and we're starting to say, okay, where do we add most value? What is the key kind of set of messages that we need to convey? How are we going to get that engagement? Right. Is there a system that can actually leverage our time, because we don't want to be spending a huge amount of time doing this. Is that where your system kind of comes in to really score that goal?
Yeah. So the step one in the system is research. And what the research step involves is knowing what is my target audience searching for. So it's about curating content that answers the questions and solves their problems or gives them the solutions that they're after. And how you find that in less than 60 seconds. The free version is you go to Google and you take a keyword. So let's say it was weight loss, for example. If you type in weight loss and you scroll down a little bit, there's a people also ask section. And this will give the queries that people are typing into Google. Now, if you keep clicking, it'll just keep relaying query after query after query. And if you make a list of those questions, you know that you can create content that people are actively searching for online. And that's how you get discovered in your niche. And you're also catering to the search engines and showing up in the right places. So that's the magic of the model. You're not just creating content for the sake of creating content. You're creating content that you know your target audience is searching for. The steroids version for YouTube, for example, is a tool called vidIQ. And that'll tell you how many people search for that query a month, what the competition is. And you can make a list of low competition, highly searched queries in your niche and create content for that, have a really good chance at being one of the recommended videos when people search on that platform.
I love that first step that you've described there, and particularly because of the use, and you said it twice there, the word niche. This is a real wake-up call, isn't it, for most of us who have been, I guess, kind of blinded by the whole kind of vanity metrics thing, as I always term it, which is like, how many followers have you got? How many likes did you get? How many visitors are coming to your website? It doesn't matter. Well, it kind of does matter in part, because obviously you've got to have some. But if you're in a niche, isn't it all about the size of that niche? Because I personally, I don't need 1 million followers to be able to do what I do, because I've got a much smaller niche. It's marketers and business owners and entrepreneurs. It doesn't need to be millions. And so if I understand my niche, I can get really focused and specific. That step one is key, isn't it? Just stopping from just getting too busy ourselves.
Yeah, I think if you look at it from a commercial standpoint, actually put the business hat on, you're better off having 3 really qualified viewers that had the problem that you're talking about than 10,000 that are just not a fit to come and work with your business. So whenever I create a piece of content, the mindset I have is I'm just looking for 2 people that need to hear this message or want to hear this message at the moment. And that removes all the obsession around views and likes. And I've seen accounts that have hundreds of thousands of followers, but they make no money. There's no commercialization. I've seen the polar opposite, someone with less than 100 followers who does really niche content, but when they do it, the audience that they're solving the problems for has enough trust and desire to transact with them, and they've built a phenomenal business with hardly any audience, hardly any reach. And that's the magic of niching and actually talking to a very specific end person.
Love that. I mean, that Aaron just says everything about kind of, I think what my whole mantra in terms of marketing stands for. It is this thing about personalization, getting as close to engaging with your ideal customer as possible. And, it's great that the very first step in your system is, really focused on getting that tight and that kind of detailed understanding. Yeah. Where does it go from there then, once you've done the research?
Yeah. So step one is research. So you go to Google, get all your questions. You're ready for step 2, which is record. And just like we're doing right now, we've found the best way to do it is conversationally, because you forget that you're on camera, you forget that you're being recorded, you don't worry about doing multiple takes, and you're very authentic and relaxed. So you get someone that you've got great rapport with. For us, we do it with our clients. And you've just got those questions there and you show up, and it could be Google Meet, which is our preference because it puts the recording in Google Drive. You could use Zoom, whatever platform you're most comfortable with. And you just have someone prompt you with each of those questions that's for your niche. And then you just answer the questions. And what you do is you've got maybe 60 minutes of conversation answering, say, 12 questions every month. And that's all you have to do in your part of the process, which is the record. And then step 3 is the repurposing. So that's where you can either use AI tools that can do some repurposing on the cheap, on the budget. Tools like Opus Clip can cut that into clips for you with captions. You've got Rev that can turn the video into a transcription that can get repurposed into text, but you can have an editor that can deliberately curate the content for each of those questions. So you've actually crafted quality content that relates to those searches you got in step 1, and then put your branding, put your captions and those parts on with using the editor. So then you've got all your content from that 60-minute conversation ready to go across your primary social media platforms.
So we're getting closer now to the secret tip here, which is repurposing of a single kind of asset, if we were to call it that, into multiple different facets. Yeah, this is so key, isn't it? Because I mean, there's a nice consistency. Okay, there's an efficiency there, but there's a really nice consistency about it, isn't there? Because it's going to be a consistent message. The look and feel of that asset, even if it's a short video, or maybe it's a little sound bite, or it's a little testimonial quote or something that gets published, the consistency of that message is so much easier to consume, isn't it, by your customer potentially?
Yeah, and not many people have the ability to hold attention in long form like really good podcasters like yourself. It's a really rare skill, and we've tried to get people to go down the podcasting route, but we know the stats that 90% don't get to episode 3. So if that's the case and most people aren't going to follow through with it, we had to find a solution that would cater to a business owner that's time poor. They know they want to do content, but how do you go about it? And it was actually from the frustration of not being able to get assets from our clients that actually led to this. And I was having a conversation with Mark, who's a bricklayer, one of our clients, and he said, I want to do some videos. And I was processing how that was going to work, doing it with him. And I was like, hang on, I've got an idea. I'm just going to ask you some questions. And I hit record and asked him the questions, and he chatted away like we were having a beer at a bar. And then I gave it to my editing team. So just cut anything you think that we can use from this conversation. And we got 12 clips back. It was a 20-minute conversation. I'm like, wow. And then I said, put Mark's branding and colors on the videos. And we gave it to Mark, and he couldn't believe it. And that was almost the accidental way that we discovered this content creation system. And then we've refined it with the research steps. So we're crafting the right content and then taking it a step further, like repurposing the transcription into written posts. So getting that balance of visual content, video content, written content to cater to all the different ways that people like to consume content.
I think the really clever thing that you've done here, Aaron, is I think a lot of people are doing individual little steps here of what you've described, but they haven't found it as being a system. To me, I'm seeing very few examples of, marketers particularly, but also, business owners like your bricklayer friend there, that kind of, they might be doing one little element of it. So they might be doing the video and then they're just throwing the video out there, but they haven't actually then done the research, or they've done the research. They found out, oh my goodness, there's a lot of different words here, but actually I'm not really sure about the creative angle to it. So then that bit fails. So it feels like you need this system to build a consistency so that you're actually doing all of it, because take one step out of this system and it isn't really going to work as effectively, is it?
Yeah, and what we've found is that with this system, regardless of whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a business owner with a team of 100 plus, you can do it, because you can research. That takes 60 seconds. You can have someone to chat to online, and you just got to show up for that conversation and record it each month. No one can make the excuse they don't have an hour to do that conversation. And then whether you're using technology and AI because you're in that solopreneur position and you just need to get a bootstrapping solution, or whether you've got the capabilities to invest in someone that can give that high quality, really well edited, to the point content, it covers all those bases. And we have a lot of people that just take the system and they do it themselves. And then we have the people that are like, can you just do it for us because you got all the resources and team in place? That makes a lot of sense. So we had to find a system that caters to all ends of the market, but there's really no excuses for someone to not be able to execute on it.
So I guess, are there three options? There's go to Aaron, there's do it yourself, and then is there the AI? Do you feel that AI is now at a level or at a stage of its own evolution that it can actually do what you're describing? It feels that there's a lot of services in beta, there's a lot of kind of promises coming through, but I'm not really 100% convinced quite yet that we've seen anybody really do what you've described there. Yeah, there's little pockets of successful stuff happening, and there's a lot of hype, obviously, as there would be, with an evolution like this or revolution like this. I mean, do you see examples where you'd be confident to say, okay, they might not be at our level quite yet because we bring the human element to it, but these particular AIs here, they're doing a good enough job for most people?
I think from what I've seen, this still needs to be that hybrid scenario. So if you are going to an AI tool, you're going to have to review the captions. It's going to cut whatever it wants to cut at this stage. So it doesn't have that creative deliberateness that an editor is going to have. So what you get back might not correlate to the content that you're actually trying to achieve. So yes, you'll get a output, you'll get content, but whether that's what you're intending to get is a whole other story. You still have to intervene and make changes to it. Again, if you're using something like ChatGPT and you give it terrible instructions, you're going to get a terrible output. So you almost have to be able to talk to it with the skill set that's required to get the output if you want to get any level of quality. So to answer your question, there's going to be human intervention required to get any reasonable level of output with AI, but it can be a starting point for someone just to get in the field, to get going if they don't have a lot of other options. And then as they start to develop or grow their business, then they can look at investing to get to that next level. Whether AI will ever get to the point where it can do it and read our minds, it's not conscious yet. I think that's a long time away. So there's always going to be a place for humans, for copywriters and editors because of that consciousness side of it.
Yeah, and I would agree, and I'm seeing and hearing a lot of that opinion. So in my travels and the conversations that I'm having, I think there's a real consistency there, which is great news for a lot of us, obviously, because we don't want AI literally coming for our jobs, as some people have been saying. But at the same time, I do feel that there is an opportunity for us to evolve, as communicators, marketers, agency owners, consultants, providing this kind of service into other brands. And if you're actually working within a brand, it feels like, though, we're still needing to evolve as humans, aren't we? Because these tools are there to enable some of the things which either we find uncomfortable, we don't necessarily enjoy, or we're not particularly good at. For some people, editing is a really hard thing to do because it's just not how their mind works. For other people, coming up with original ideas is the hardest thing. It's like, yes, Aaron, I hear what you're saying, but I wouldn't even know where to start. What kind of topics or questions would I ask? But this is, I think, isn't it, where the AIs can kind of come in and almost fill some of those gaps?
Yeah, it's what it is it's an efficiency or accelerator. It can also be something that you can prompt to start the creative process. And I actually had a really in-depth conversation with someone that's whole agency is built around AI. And he was talking about, to the degree that you actually have to train the AI machine now, because the way that it works is it's just pulling and anticipating and predicting what would come next based on everything that it's taken from the web, which is not always factually accurate. So if you don't fact check or verify, you can put things out that are not true, which could be a problem. If you are lazy, there's chances are someone's asked it the same thing. You get a duplicate that already exists somewhere else online, which is what it's pulling from, duplicate stuff that already exists. So you've got an opportunity where if you can train it really well, you can save time and you can accelerate processes, and it can do things like write emails, get copy started, but then the human can come in and make the edits. So I think there's a really healthy way to start using it and to save time, get it back and get things started. But at the end of the day, you still need to be able to drive it really, really well to be able to achieve the quality that's actually going to stand out in the marketplace versus something that anyone could do, and therefore it probably already exists and has already been put out by someone else.
So 30 days in 90 minutes, is that really achievable? Is it, I mean, those are lovely multipliers. Those numbers are just, they just roll off the tongue. They look really good on paper or on screen. Are they actually achievable? Because that feels like that's a lot of content in 90 minutes.
Yeah. So from our experience with clients, we'll have roughly a 60-minute conversation. We'll usually come to the session with 12 questions, and we give them a freestyle section at the end. Is there anything that you want to talk about? And they might go off on a tangent about something. But generally speaking, we'll get a minimum of 12 videos from that. We'll cut 12 clips. So you've got 3 to go out each week. And then we'll take that transcript and usually get it repurposed into roughly 10 posts. So you can have 5 to 6 pieces of content every single week. So 30 days of content is where that came from that 60 to 90 minute conversation. So that's essentially how we came up with that hook. And most of our clients are putting out 5 to 6 pieces of content a week from this system.
Is there any sector or any type of business where this wouldn't work?
Well, interestingly enough, we've got clients in some very interesting spaces, from rail engineering, which is a very narrow sector, to bricklaying, which is interesting, to coaching and personal brands. I guess if you have something that requires demonstrations or something that's very niche product, it could be hard to come up with lots and lots of content about that. For example, if you just sold a singular product and having conversations about that and producing content for that every month, that could be more challenging. But generally speaking, we're yet to come across someone where we've run out of content ideas, where we haven't been able to produce the content. But that's probably a lot to do with the messaging and what we put out and who comes and reaches out to us and discovers what we're talking about. So I'd say there's definitely examples where it would be particularly challenging, but anyone that's in service-based businesses, advisory, anything like that, it's going to be a really powerful system to create your content every month and not run into all the constraints and challenges and bottlenecks that are there if you're trying to do it without a process.
So I'm just hearing that. I'm assuming then that and I know a lot of people listening to this will be very familiar with the phrase thought leadership, particularly in B2B, because what they're looking to do is differentiate between their business and lots of the alternatives that their customers could consider. So if thought leadership is part of it, is almost this obligation, and come back to your word responsibility right at the start of our conversation, but there's almost a need, isn't there, for this level of content and number of assets to be out there, because almost you can't be a thought leader unless you're actually leading the thought, which means you've got to be producing stuff. So if you're that kind of more strategic position, rather than necessarily selling short-term products and sales, but you're looking for a more longer-term brand position, this sounds like this would be just perfect for that.
Yeah, well, a great example of that is we had a regional hairdressing salon start with us today. And what we're doing in their case, even though they're regional in a country town in Australia, is we're sharing the story of the business. We're sharing the treatments, and we're sharing why the company exists, and we're educating on the products. We're sharing the stories of the team, why they're doing that, and what their journey's been to get there. So when you do that, you introduce a human connection with the audience, which you don't get if you're not doing video and you're not putting the faces out there. What that can help do is recruit. So other people see your business, you become a destination employer, which is really overlooked with content. The second thing that it does is it really separates you from any other businesses, in their case salons, that are out there, because of the authenticity and the personalization of the people. So immediately, if everyone else is just posting pictures of people with their hairstyles and getting there, anyone can do that. But if you've got Deb, the founder of the business, talking about why she does this and the pathways that she creates for her hairdressers and taking care of them and helping them build their businesses inside the salons, and talking about how the products and how that helps with hair health and ongoing treatment and all those sorts of things and the ongoing care. If you're just posting the pictures and you're not bringing the human side, you're just one of every other salon that's doing that. No one can mimic the humans in your business if they're being authentic. So that immediately puts you over here when everyone else is sort of competing for the same thing in the same space. So that's why I love it. And I think any business that doesn't start putting the faces and the people out, and it can really help also with conversion when people see people and they build a rapport with them. There's that trust, which really helps people to make a decision to move forward. There's all these elements that you achieve. And if you're getting referred business, if you have prospects that want to see what you do and they go check out your social media accounts and they're seeing people and what they're saying is adding value, then it really helps them make that decision to move forward versus having that doubt that they might have if they don't get those little checkpoints when they're doing their research. I think it just makes so much sense for businesses to put names, faces, humans behind the brand. And that brand is also an asset for the future that you're building that actually increases the value of the business while you're doing it.
That's so eloquently put, Aaron. Honestly, that's summed up in just a few sentences there. Something I would have probably taken like a month to actually convey, but that's the sweet spot, isn't it? Really, this is where a system like yours kind of scores on both levels. It will get you the business that you need today, but it's also positioning you consistently in your potential customers' eyes, in the niche that you want, with responsible, focused content. It's the best of all worlds. It's kind of what we've been crying out for, isn't it? This, I mean, is there kind of a sort of a sense that you could see in the future, all content being created in this way? Because to me, it just makes so much sense.
It's a good question. I just think there's always, if I look at all the business owners I know, which is a lot, the majority of them aren't doing content. The majority of them won't do content. So I think that there'll be more adoption, more uptake, because you get left behind or you see someone that just takes market share and becomes that destination company in your local sector and service area. So you end up playing chasey. But I just think because of that, not having a system, the time constraints that people associate to it, not knowing when to post, where to post, what frequency, all those moving parts just paralyzes business owners into inaction, and they've got all these other priorities screaming at them: clients, customers, spot fires, team problems. So whilst I think there will be more uptake, I don't think there'll be a world where everyone's doing it. So I think the ones that do adopt are going to have a really useful competitive advantage in their niche and in their sector.
Let's help people to adopt, Aaron. Where should they go? Where can they find the system?
So we give it away for free. So if you go to contentonly.au, we've got a video that just shows you how to do it. Because like we said, you could be at the start of the journey and we want to give you the 3 steps, the research, record, and repurpose. So you can take that and do it yourself. We're there if you want to just lean into our systems. So if you go to contentonly.au, you can download that for free right now and you can start creating 30 days of content in 90 minutes.
And what is not to like with that? That is incredible. And it's so refreshing as well, Aaron, just to hear your passion for this subject, but the fact that you're giving the system there for free. I think, that there's an opportunity here for you to say, yeah, you've got to sign up for the book, you've got to do the course, you've got to, commit to this length of, whatever. And yet you're actually giving this away for free because it's the right thing to do. So, credit to you, Aaron, seriously, because there are a lot of people trying to, I guess, leverage every single thing that they do. And you've got a successful business. You know that ultimately people are going to need your services as a result of it. But the fact you're being, strong and, brand aware enough to be able to do that for free, I think is an absolute credit. So thank you on behalf of everybody listening to this who's going to go away and sort of follow that link. Thank you for what you're doing, because it's really, I think, a really important part of this whole communications exercise that we're all trying.
Yeah, and you're welcome, Neil. And on that note too, I think personally in business, what's always worked for us is that transparency. It's giving stuff away, because you do achieve trust and desire, and people can see how you do it. And then it's an easy decision. No, we're not ready to get your help now, but we can certainly go get the outcome. Or, you know what, we're at that stage where it just makes sense. You've shown us you can do it, so let's do it. So it's actually the perfect filtering strategy for us. And I've always, throughout the years, just given away our strategies, and it's never not worked for the businesses that I've built. So I like helping people, creates goodwill in the marketplace, and I think more people should do it because it's never hurt my business.
So you heard it from the horse's mouth, people. Aaron is running a very successful business, doing it this way. So what could you give away as well to build your business? There's an interesting question to leave everybody with. Aaron, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're very busy, and we're in very, very different time zones here. So I need to let you get off to sleep, I think, because it's a little bit later in the day for you compared to where I am. So thank you so much for your time. And yes, we'll be pushing this out to everybody, getting them to click on that link as soon as they possibly can. So thank you.
Thanks, Neil. It's been a pleasure.